Hi, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk Chicago. My name is Jon Zaghloul. Great to have you here. Channel 59.3 BPOD TV and Roku. Big show for today. The Bears fell on Monday night, but guess what? Justin Fields made progress. We'll talk about it in just a moment. Before we get started, make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jon Z Sports and on Facebook at Jon Zaghloul. If you want to watch more of this show, search up Sports Talk Chicago on YouTube for special clips and interviews, or go to sportstalkchicago.com if you want to watch more shows from the BPOD TV network. Search up VPOD TV on YouTube. I want to start today with this. I'm not really a moral victory guy. I don't care about good feelings and positivity. I care about the truth. That's why a lot of you watch me or listen to me on the radio. I'm not the Bears PR person. I'm not waving pom-poms and being a cheerleader for this team. I'm going to tell you like it is. If they suck, I'll say it. If they perform, well, I'll say that too. I'm objective. Monday Night Football was a tough loss for the Bears. It was a winnable game, and we'll talk about why they lost it. Hint, hint, it's a lot having to do with Matt Nagy. But we did see progress. We actually saw a decent game from Justin Fields. What have I said for the majority of this season? Wins and losses don't really matter. It's all about development. And hey, I get it. You get so enraged during the game, you want to see a win. I do it too. I just said I'm not a moral victory guy. I don't like having that attitude. I'd rather judge this team based off wins and losses. Based off of real numbers, not, oh, this feels better or this is getting better. But you have to rethink your priorities when you're developing your supposed next franchise QB. Things change. And from Justin Fields on Monday night, I think we all got a glimpse of what he could be. And it wasn't bad at all. 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 58% completion percentage, a bit wary there. Made a couple of good throws when needed and drove the Bears downfield with 3 minutes to go. And that is the big key here. That's my number one takeaway from this game. He may not have had the best game, Justin Fields. He did make some mistakes with throws early. Didn't have any help from the wide receiving core, too, running for his life again. I mean, these same themes are resounding each and every game we see him play out. But with the Bears needing a score, 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes to go, Justin Fields delivered. He actually drove the Bears downfield. Put him in contention to win the game at that point. I knew there was enough time left, and I expected Pittsburgh to answer, which they did. But even then, with seconds remaining, Justin Fields gave him one more chance again to win the game. I'm not saying Cairo Santos and a 65-yard field goal is a good idea, but the point is, they were in position. Fields and the Bears had to do something to get to that point, too. And they did. They made it there. And Santos had some miracle kick, they would have won the game. Fields got him there. I was very pleasantly surprised with his poise in that sort of situation. I was. Really. Oh, by the way, I'll take 291 passing yards all day. And 45 rushing yards. I'll take that all day long. For a guy who has no O-line, for a guy who has spotty wide receivers, no weapons, and as we all know, a horrible head coach, those are great numbers. Imagine he was in the right system. New England. What if he was with Bill Belichick? He had a good group around him, good defense. He was in Mac Jones' position. I think Justin Fields would be a knockout for Rookie of the Year. That's not to diminish Mac Jones. He's done well over there, but the point is, you could tell at this point if Justin Fields gets something around him, something to help him, he'll actually be okay. And I don't mind in general running quarterbacks who may have less passing yards but more rushing yards. In Fields' case, he'll have both. I can't even remember the last time the Bears had a 300-yard passing game. They almost got it on Monday. Almost. That close. 9 yards off. Plus 45 rushing yards from the quarterback. Facing one of the NFL's best defenses, the Bears put up 27 points. Again, not a moral victory guy. I'm just stating facts. The fact is, there was improvement. We saw better things across the board for the Bears. Now, penalties? You can say whatever you want about, the game was fixed, bad flags, and might be true. I don't know. Here's what I do know, though. You have to be disciplined as a team. You have to be. You have to be disciplined. What does that reflect on? All the penalties. Yep, the players, sure, but more so the coach. I saw a lot of people saying, well, Justin Fields did good with Matt Nagy. Time to keep him. I saw some people say that. I direct you to the penalties. I direct you to the undisciplined play by the Bears. I guarantee you, had there been 5 less penalties, they probably would have won that game. Gave up over 120 penalty yards. Yeah, good luck winning anything when you're giving up that many. So for the Matt Nagy lovers, whomever you may be, probably want to stay anonymous at this point, but if you're out there, realize that just because Justin Fields played well doesn't mean it reflects on Matt Nagy. More so, it reflects on Bill Lazor. And if you don't believe me, well, the penalties are, to an extent, Nagy's fault and stupid mistakes by the Bears' fault. Who makes this team undisciplined? Who's supposed to coach them to be better, to be mentally in the game? Not the players themselves. Coach. Head coach. Matt Nagy. I've talked to a number of experts, number of reporters on this program, and the consensus is he won't be back next year. Now, they said the same thing last year, but I really believe it's not going to work for him. His time is up. I've seen enough. You've seen enough. That's it. It's over. And that's not a personal attack. Okay, I'm sure he's a really good guy, nice guy off the field. But the fact of the matter is, we've seen enough. We've seen enough from Matt Nagy. What more do we need to know? We saw a great first year with a great defense. We saw a couple of 500 seasons, and now we're seeing a 3-6 year. And the development of Justin Fields may look good now, but remember, who's calling plays? And how undisciplined is this team on the field? And do you really think Matt Nagy is going to be the guy for Justin Fields to latch on to? Come on. Really? Every coach and quarterback has to have a special connection if you want to work in the NFL. Do you actually think there's going to be some special connection between Nagy and Fields? We would have seen it already. We would have seen it. It would have been obvious. Hey, they have a good chemistry. They work together. They don't. They don't. This was the first encouraging game by Justin Fields. Really. 49ers game was okay. This was better. Much better. So the first time all year we see something encouraging. It's taken this long for him and Matt Nagy to get on the same page. And who knows what's going to happen still. Bears are on a bye now coming up, but still. Who knows what's going to happen. Justin Fields can't replicate this. Or if this is supposedly a ceiling, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, fine, but that's a reflection on the coach by that point. Matt Nagy's going to be coaching for his job over these next couple of games here. This is really going to determine if he goes or stays. The Bears are 3-6, too. I know at the beginning of the year the narrative was, well, even if the Bears don't make the playoffs, if there's development for Justin Fields, they'll keep Nagy. I think at this point, Justin Fields has to go off for Nagy to stay. And regardless of that, we'll never forget how this whole thing started. Right? We'll never forget how Justin Fields was sacked 12 times against Cleveland. Who's to blame there? 6 of 20 for 68 yards and a start for Justin Fields. Who's to blame? Maybe partially Justin Fields, sure, but the majority is Matt Nagy. How about the loss to Tampa? Yeah, that was on Justin Fields and Matt Nagy. See, these are things I won't forget. And I hope the Bears don't either. When they're evaluating Matt Nagy at the end of the year, I hope the consensus is, well, you had some good times, Matt, but here are the bad ones, too. And we remember them. And we won't forget it. And this is how you're going to be evaluated. Not, hey, a couple of good games, bad teams, good job, or something like that. It's not going to work. It's really not going to work for the Bears. It's not going to get done. Found a very interesting stat, by the way. You need to hear this from J.J. Zachariason. Quote, Justin Fields' first 4 starts, 3.8 rushing attempts, and 17 rushing yards per game for the Bears. Justin Fields' last 3 starts, 8.7 rushing attempts, and 62 rushing yards per game. So the Bears are deciding, finally, hey, let's let him run the football. Only took you 4 games. That's my point. This is so apparent here. I just talked to Rob Maaddi about this. You'll see it in the interview. John Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson. You do realize that when Lamar was drafted, they talked about making him a wide receiver. And some coaches were willing to do it. But no, John Harbaugh said, I will cater to you. What do you need, Lamar? How can you be great in the NFL under me? And it worked. Matt Nagy, there's proof here he didn't do that. First 4 starts for Fields. 4 rushing attempts, 17 rushing yards per game. Now, 9 about, and 62 rushing yards a game. Once again, it's Matt Nagy's stubbornness getting in the way. And that's why at this point, it's so apparent that it's over. I don't care what happens. I don't care how great Fields plays. The fact of the matter is we have numbers here to corroborate a Matt Nagy firing. And hell, a Ryan Pace firing too. This offensive line is atrocious. I mean, you couldn't do anything. You couldn't do anything to help out a rookie quarterback. What, do you expect him to run? Oh, he runs. He could run away from the pressure. Well, that doesn't work all the time, and we've seen it. This kid's getting beat up right away. And sure, you could say, well, he'll earn his stripes, or the contrary opinion, which is, could get hurt and could scar him. I just wish he had a good offensive line for 1 game. That'd be amazing. I'd love to see Justin Fields with 3 seconds to throw the ball all the time in the world to sling it downfield and make a play. Instead, we're seeing the same old, same old. We're seeing no protection. We're seeing pockets collapsing. We're seeing Fields on pretty much every play run for his life. You're not going to win much doing that. This may not be the winning year yet, but when that time comes, which could be as soon as next year or the year after, you're not going to win with that O-line. By the way, get this. Quote, I'm not entirely sure how you can get an illegal formation penalty coming out of a timeout, but then again, hashtag Bears. Matt Nagy calls a timeout, tells him to play, illegal formation. These guys don't listen to him. They don't speak to him. They're not on the same level as him. And it's just so apparent right now. It is. And that's not even a bias against Matt Nagy. I'm being honest here. When you look at stuff like that, when you look at the stat sheet for Justin Fields, now running the ball more after 4 starts. 4 starts for what? What did you have to wait for? You knew Justin Fields could run. What are we waiting on here? We're waiting on your ego to calm down, so better plays could be called. It's apparent. I see it. I see it with my own two eyes. Everybody else does too. It's not just me. You need to find somebody who's going to cater to Justin Fields. Who is going to be Justin Fields' advocate? That's the key here. Who's going to advocate for Justin Fields? Could you find a coach who promises to do that? Doesn't just say it. Matt Nagy said he'd advocate for Mitch Trubisky. Look how that worked out. Now he's going to say I'm advocating for Justin Fields. Well, look how it's been working out. Monday was the first time it actually worked out okay. Change does need to be made. Can't be committing all those penalties either. I don't care if some of them were BS. Some of them were. There were others that were rightfully called. Illegal formation out of a timeout. That sums up the Bears. That sums up their discipline under Matt Nagy. That's when you know it's time to let them loose. I was encouraged by Justin Fields' play. I really was. Win or loss, I was happy with the way he performed. It's only going to get better, I hope. Maybe by the end of the year, we'll see a 3-touchdown game, 300 yards, 100 rushing yards. Who knows? We don't know. It's possible. It's also apparent that the past 3 weeks he's gotten better and better. From Tampa, which was his worst game, to San Fran, and now Pittsburgh, and a bye too. Now, he's gotten better. The Bears have slowly but surely adjusted their play calling for Fields. It's an encouraging spot. The Bears are probably the most encouraging 3-16, but nevertheless, remember, they are 3-6. And that game was winnable. That's the problem. It was winnable. They didn't have all those penalties. They would have won. Think about this. Bears started on a drive at their own 48. First play, 25-yard catch to Cole Kmet, and they punted. This is what I'm talking about. Stuff like this. This is why you're not winning football games. And that's going to be your problem. And who does that reflect on? Excessive penalties. Not catering to Justin Fields' strengths yet. Not having a good team around him. That's Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace. You know, Ryan Pace has been here for a while. I mean, he was here during the Jay Cutler era still. And he's still here. And what's been done? What's been done? Show me. Show me results. Don't see any. I don't see anything. I've seen 2 playoff appearances. It's not enough. And as for Matt Nagy, don't even get me started. He ruined Mitch Trubisky, and right now he's on a path to ruin Justin Fields. The supposed offensive guru is ruining 2 top quarterbacks, top picks. The writing's on the wall here. If you don't see it yet, well, I hope this video enlightened you a bit. You should see it. This is really apparent now. If Justin Fields wants to be who he's supposed to be, Matt Nagy needs to go. It's that simple. You want Justin Fields to be Patrick Mahomes, and not this kind of Patrick Mahomes, but the prime Patrick Mahomes. Matt Nagy's not going to be the guy to prop him up. He's going to hinder him. And this team and the personnel is going to hinder him. Think to yourself, who does that reflect on? Not a Justin Fields issue. It's a Ryan Pace and a Matt Nagy issue. And if they're gone, and you bring in somebody new, well, things could get better. Justin Fields, of course, would have to learn a new offense. Not impossible. Maybe it'd work better for him. But these are the things you have to think about. We're done looking at wins and losses here, at least for now. They're 3-6. They're not making the playoffs. They aren't. They need a miracle. So what's the next best thing? We have to look at, did Justin Fields progress? How's he working with Matt Nagy? How's he working with his team? And even though we saw a great performance on Monday night, the whole track record from start to finish hasn't been the best. And I think it's apparent to everybody. If Fields has good enough talent, just a competent O-line even around him, and good play calling, he'll succeed. If he doesn't, well, he'll see games like Tampa Bay more often. Thanks for watching today's show here on BPOD TV, channel 59.3 in Roku. Really appreciate the time. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jon Z Sports and on Facebook at Jon Zaghloul. If you want to watch more of this show, sportstalkchicago.com or Sports Talk Chicago on YouTube. And make sure you also subscribe to the BPOD TV YouTube page. Great interviews coming up this week. Chris Bowden, Rob Motti to come. It should be great. Make sure you're tuning in every night at 10:30 right here on BPOD TV. So long, everyone.